The Soviet Union, once a towering force in the Cold War, stood as a formidable military power. For decades, this communist giant invested heavily in cutting-edge weaponry, aiming to surpass its capitalist adversaries. This drive led to groundbreaking inventions, yet many of these projects were eventually abandoned and forgotten. Delving into these abandoned endeavors reveals the Soviets' unwavering determination and technological dreams. Here are 20 abandoned military projects of the Soviet Union. Number 20. KV-13. The KV-13, a tank that could have rewritten the rules of armored warfare in World War II, stands as a fascinating piece of history from the Soviet Union's experimental forge. Developed on the robust KV-1 chassis, this universal tank was designed to streamline production by replacing both the T-34 medium tanks and the KV-1 heavy tanks. During the late 1941 and early 1942, at the Chelyabinsk-Kirov plant's SKB-2 Design Bureau, engineers embarked on a bold mission: create a tank that could do it all. The KV-13 was to be the jack-of-all-trades in armored warfare, combining the agility and speed of a medium tank with the resilience and firepower of a heavy tank. By the spring of 1942, the first prototype of the KV-13 rolled out, ready to undergo rigorous testing. However, the tank's initial glory was short-lived. The fall brought tough lessons. Tests revealed significant mechanical reliability issues. It became clear that the KV-13's armor needed beefing up, and its turret, a critical component for its operation, required a redesign to accommodate 3 seats. Despite these setbacks, the Soviets didn't back down. By December 1942, modifications were underway with 2 new prototypes. Yet, the allure of the proven T-34's production lines couldn't be ignored, and the focus shifted back to enhancing what already worked. The KV-13 project, while promising, was ultimately set aside. The experimental journey of the KV-13, however, wasn't in vain. It paved the path for the creation of the IS-1 heavy tank in 1943. Number 19. 1K-17 Shady. Meet the 1K-17 Shady, known in the corridors of Western intelligence as the Stiletto. This isn't just another tank. It's a relic of the Cold War's high-stakes tech race. Crafted from a modified T-80U chassis, the 1K-17 Shady wasn't designed to blast through walls or mow down infantry. Its mission was far more subtle, yet potentially more devastating. Imagine a battlefield where your enemy's missiles, aircraft, and ground vehicles suddenly go blind. That was the dream behind the Shady. Its arsenal? Not bullets, but beams. Laser beams, to be precise, designed to disable the optical electronic equipment of enemy forces. The heart of this laser vehicle pulsed with a battery of laser projectors, each one powered by a whopping 30 kilograms of artificial rubies. These weren't just for show. The rubies focused light through a silver-coated spiral, amplifying and converging the beam to strike with precision. To keep this costly equipment running, an auxiliary battery system and generator were on board, nestled within the steel beast. But why is such a marvel of military technology tucked away in history's closet? Developed between the 1970s and 80s, the Shady's journey was cut short by the Soviet Union's collapse. The sheer expense and complexity of producing and maintaining this laser behemoth made its continuation untenable in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. Only 2 prototypes ever saw the light of day. One ended up scrapped, and the other stands silently in the Army Technology Museum near Moscow, stripped of its dazzling laser projector. Number 18. SKK Tank. In the shadowy prelude to the Second World War, the Soviet Union embarked on a bold endeavor to revolutionize its armored forces. The SKK Tank, named after Sergei Mironovich Kirov, a prominent Communist Party official whose life was cut short by an assassin's bullet in 1934, emerged as a behemoth from the annals of Soviet design. This massive armored vehicle, misidentified by German intelligence as the T-35C, hinted at an imposing presence in the Winter War, though it never quite lived up to its initial promise. Crafted at the famed Kirovsky Works in Leningrad, the SMK was a contender in the Soviet military's quest to replace the aging T-35. Under the leadership of Joseph Kotin, a giant in tank design, this prototype was constructed to endure the fiercest of battles, capable of withstanding 45mm anti-tank rounds from point-blank range and resisting 75mm artillery fire from as far as 1,200 meters away. Yet, despite its formidable design, the SMK was a beast of burden on the battlefield. During the brutal winter war against Finland, the SMK, alongside the prototypes of the KV-1 and T-100 tanks, was thrust into the fray to prove its mettle. The tanks formed a specialized company, which included the son of the defense commissar, taking on the dense forests and harsh conditions of the Finnish terrain. The SMK's massive hull, though well-armored, proved to be its Achilles heel. Its length made maneuverability a nightmare, particularly in the thick woods where agility was crucial. Tragedy struck when the SMK tank was immobilized by a mine. Stuck and unable to be retrieved, it lay abandoned in the snowy wilderness for 2 months. This setback highlighted the inherent flaws in its design, too cumbersome for practical wartime use. The trials ultimately favored the more agile and less cumbersome KV tanks, leading to the discontinuation of the SMK project. Number 17. Su-152 Terran. In response to the emerging threat of Western tanks like the American M60 and British Chieftain, which boasted formidable frontal armor, the Soviet military embarked on an ambitious project in the early 1960s. They initiated several programs to enhance their anti-tank capabilities, including the development of the Su-152 Terran, also known as Object 120. The Su-152 Terran was a marvel of Soviet engineering, designed to outclass any foreign tank destroyer of its time. It featured a staggering 152.4mm M69 Terran rifled gun, the longest ever mounted on an armored fighting vehicle, with a barrel extending over 9 meters and equipped with a robust muzzle brake. This tank destroyer wasn't just about size, it was about power. The gun had a maximum range of 2,050 meters and could unleash a rate of fire between 3 to 5 rounds per minute. It carried 22 rounds of armor-piercing discarding sabot and high-explosive ammunition, capable of penetrating 290 millimeters of rolled, homogeneous armor at a range of 2,000 meters. Despite its impressive specifications, the rise of more effective 125mm smoothbore tank guns and anti-tank missiles eventually led to the discontinuation of the Su-152 Terran. Number 16. AntiTank Dogs. From the depths of the Cold War archives comes a story not just of war machines, but of four-legged soldiers with a mission as strange as it was somber. The AntiTank Dogs, an experiment from a chapter of the Soviet military playbook, reveals the lengths to which the USSR would go to gain an upper hand in wartime technology. Trained under the shadow of secrecy, these dogs were part of an initiative aimed at a novel yet controversial method of battlefield engineering. The concept was straightforward yet grim. Dogs were equipped with explosives and trained to locate enemy tanks, crawl underneath them, and deploy their deadly cargo. This tactic aimed to eliminate the need to risk human soldiers' lives in the direct line of enemy fire. The mechanics of this system were both crude and cruel. Each dog carried a bomb strapped to its body, connected to a self-releasing mechanism intended to be activated manually by the dog using its teeth. Once the bomb was set, the animal was supposed to retreat safely back to its handler. However, the reality on the battlefield was far different and far more chaotic. Despite their training, the dogs often struggled with their tasks. The overwhelming noise of battle, including the thunderous roars of tank engines and the booming of artillery, disoriented and frightened them. Instead of targeting enemy tanks, the confused and scared animals frequently returned to their own lines or simply did not perform their missions. The ethical implications of using animals in such a manner were as severe as the tactical limitations. The project faced strong internal and external criticism, leading to its eventual abandonment. Many of the dogs used in this program lost their lives, not as heroes, but as victims of a desperate war strategy. Number 15. Borya. Borya aptly translates to storm in Russian. This was not just any storm, but a supersonic, intercontinental herald of destruction that almost came to be. Developed by the Lavochkin Design Bureau, led by the visionary Naum Semyonovich Chernyakov, the Borya missile was born out of a Soviet request in 1954 for a weapon capable of delivering a nuclear blow right to the United States' doorstep. Picture this, a Mach 3 missile zooming across continents undetected, faster than the speed of sound, armed with a thermonuclear payload. The Borya's design was groundbreaking. It featured a two-stage system starting with a powerful booster rocket derived from ballistic missile technology. This rocket wasn't just for show. It was the critical component that propelled the Borya to the necessary altitudes and speeds, where its second stage, a ramjet engine, would take over. Unlike jets that require air to mix with fuel for combustion, a ramjet provides the pure, unbridled speed needed for long-range missions. Innovation didn't stop at propulsion. The Borya's guidance system was a marvel of its time, combining inertial navigation with a star tracking system that literally navigated by the stars, pinpointing its trajectory with celestial accuracy. Despite its technological brilliance, the Borya's journey was as brief as it was bright. By 1960, amidst several setbacks and crashes that hinted at its volatile potential, the project was shelved. The emergence of intercontinental ballistic missiles, simpler in design and harder to intercept, rendered the sophisticated Borya obsolete. Number 14. Tupolev. Tu-95 LAL. The Tupolev Tu-95 LAL was not your ordinary aircraft. Post-World War II, as nations scrambled to outpace each other in aerial might, the Soviets threw their hat into the ring with this behemoth, which was slated to be powered by none other than a nuclear reactor. Imagine the audacity of flying a reactor across the skies. This colossal plane was designed to harness atomic energy for flight, a testament to the Soviet Union's relentless pursuit of cutting-edge technology, and perhaps a touch of Cold War bravado. Special modifications were made to accommodate the reactor, indicating the lengths engineers were willing to go to make this audacious idea a reality. However, the inherent risks of flying a nuclear reactor, radiation exposure, catastrophic failure scenarios, proved too daunting. The project was axed before the Tupolev could ever grace the skies, leaving it as a fascinating what-if in the annals of aviation history. Number 13. The Tu-15 Norov. The Tu-15 Norov, a lesser-known relic from the Soviet Union's ambitious military endeavors, was designed to bridge the gap between mobility and firepower. This vehicle wasn't just any piece of artillery, it was a hybrid, merging the agility of armored vehicles with the devastating impact of a tank. What set the Norov apart was its chassis, built on the robust and reliable design of the T-8 tank, one of the quickest and most feared on the battlefield. But the innovation didn't stop with its base. Atop this dynamic platform sat a powerful 152mm gun capable of striking with precision over considerable distances. This was not just artillery. This was a mobile gun system designed to move quickly, strike hard, and then vanish before the enemy could pinpoint its location. The vision behind the Tu-15 was clear: to create a piece of machinery that could support infantry during assaults, provide formidable firepower without the logistical nightmare of towing traditional artillery, and maintain pace with other armored units. It was, in many ways, ahead of its time, proposing solutions to the mobility versus firepower conundrum that many militaries around the world were struggling with. However, like many innovative projects during the winding down of the Cold War, the Tu-15 Norov found itself on the chopping block. The shifting dynamics of military technology and strategy, combined with the economic strains faced by the Soviet Union in its final years, meant that the Norov was set aside. The prototypes and testing phases showed promise, yet the project never moved into full-scale production. Number 12. The TKB-02 2PM. The TKB-02 2PM series is a trio of groundbreaking Soviet assault rifles designed by the ingenious German Korobov in the swinging 60s. These rifles were more than just metal and mechanics. They were a leap toward futuristic warfare. Let's unpack their unique design and see why they, unfortunately, never marched out of the prototype phase. These rifles were not your average bearers of bullets. Engineered for the very specific Russian rounds, these bullpups showcased exceptional ingenuity. Their gas-operated system featured an annular gas piston circling the barrel and a cleverly designed vertically moving bolt. This innovation shortened the receiver group significantly, allowing for a compact yet powerful weapon. But here's where it gets even cooler. The TKB-022PM models boasted a U-shaped rammer extractor mechanism. This system didn't just feed the cartridge, it also extracted spent casings with a push-pull action that worked flawlessly from both the right and left arm positions. Talk about ambidextrous design. The most striking feature? These rifles had a barrel-to-overall length ratio that was unmatched, providing 3 times the accuracy of the AKM from unstable positions. A claim that's as bold today as it was then. Yet, despite their precision and compact design, the Soviet military deemed them too radical. Concerns over their tail-heavy balance and the durability of their plastic housing under harsh conditions led to their unfortunate shelving. Number 11. The Soviet Lunar Program. As the space race heated up in the 1950s and 1960s, the Soviet Union launched an ambitious attempt to beat the United States to the moon. Spearheading this endeavor were numerous programs under one extensive initiative aimed at making the Soviet Union the first to the lunar surface. Early successes seemed promising. The Soviets were pioneers, launching the first satellite and sending the first human into orbit. However, as the decade wore on, the Soviet lunar program faced setbacks. Despite their early leads in the space race, the Soviet efforts began to falter, overshadowed by the American Apollo program's strides toward the same lunar goal. When the U.S. astronauts finally made their historic moon landing in 1969, it marked a significant turning point. The Soviet program, once at the forefront, gradually lost momentum and eventually stalled. Today, while joint space endeavors like the International Space Station have seen Russian involvement, a Russian has yet to set foot on the moon. Number 10. Savin Norov machine gun. This machine gun buzzed briefly in the prelude to World War II within the Soviet Union's innovative arsenal. Conceived by IV Savin and AK Norov in the mid-1930s, this aircraft machine gun aimed to outperform its contemporaries with a firing rate that was nothing short of revolutionary. The Savin Norov, or SN, was engineered to fire the same 7.62 by 54 mm R cartridge as the SKK, but with a twist, the barrel and bolt moved in opposite directions to ramp up the firing rate. While reports on its rate vary, figures suggest it reached a blistering 2,800 to 3,600 rounds per minute. This design was set to redefine aerial combat firepower. In 1939, the SN found its way into the wings of 3 Polikarpov AU-16 aircraft, famously designated as Type 19, and saw action in the Winter War. The design was also planned for synchronization with aircraft propellers in the I-16 Type 20, although this variant didn't advance to active service. Another ambitious configuration for the Type 22 involved arming the aircraft with 4 synchronized guns, including 2 SNs, but this too was shelved in 1939. Despite its initial promise and superior specifications, the SN machine gun was plagued by reliability issues, leading to its rejection by the VVS and preventing it from going into mass production. Number 9. Vos Ro Denier Island. Vos Ro Denier Island, a name that might sound more like a relic of a dark fairy tale, became one of the Soviet Union's most chilling chapters. This remote spot wasn't for storing tanks or ammo. It was ground zero for something far more sinister: biological weapons testing. Tucked away in the Aral Sea, this island became the testing ground for some of the Soviets' most hazardous bioweapons. Despite the secrecy, things didn't go as planned. The island was plagued with accidents and mishaps, leading to dire consequences not just for the environment, but potentially for global health. The gravity of the situation eventually led to the complete abandonment of the facility. Today, Vos Ro Denier Island captures the imagination in ways the Soviets never intended. It has morphed into a cultural icon of sorts, serving as a battleground in the Call of Duty franchise. Number 8. ZSU372 Yenes. The ZSU372 Yenes was the Soviet Union's bold answer to aerial threats in the late 1950s. This experimental self-propelled anti-aircraft gun was equipped with dual 37mm autocannons that unleashed a storm of 1,048 rounds per minute. Despite its impressive firepower and advanced capabilities, the Yenes's journey was cut short, and it never went into mass production. Designed to protect tank regiments by blasting enemy aircraft out of the sky up to 3,000 meters, the Yenes was part of a larger defense strategy. It emerged from a decree aiming to innovate rapid-firing anti-aircraft solutions. Tested alongside its cousin, the Shilka, the Yenes showcased its prowess during trials, effectively tracking and firing at high-speed targets. The system featured cutting-edge technology for its time, including a gas turbine that powered up the radar and electronics, ensuring the vehicle could transition swiftly to combat readiness. Its armor was tough enough to shrug off rifle fire, keeping its crew and vital components safe. Despite these advantages, the Yenes faced competition. In 1962, the decision was made to proceed with the Shilka instead, halting the Yenes's development. Number 7. RPG-1. Conceived in 1944 amid the fervor of World War II innovations, the RPG-1 was the Soviet answer to the formidable anti-tank devices like the American bazooka and the German Panzerfaust. Developed by G.P. Leminsky at the Main Artillery Directorate's Small Arms and Mortar Research Range, the RPG-1 was a lightweight, rocket-propelled grenade launcher designed for ease of use and rapid reload capability. Its design was sleek. A 1-meter-long steel tube with a pistol grip and a leaf sight for precise targeting. The weapon used a PG-70 high-explosive anti-tank warhead, only 70 millimeters wide, intended to pierce through enemy armor with efficiency. However, not all that glitter is gold. The RPG-1 encountered several roadblocks during testing. It struggled with a firing cap that often malfunctioned and a propellant sensitive to temperature changes, affecting its reliability. Its warhead, while innovative, lacked the penetrating power needed against newer tanks, reaching only 140 millimeters of armor, a shortfall when facing robust tanks like the Panther. Despite its potential, the RPG-1 was overtaken by advancements in its own lineage, leading to the development of the RPG-2 in 1947, a significantly improved model. Thus, the RPG-1 project wrapped up in 1948, marking an important, though brief, step in the evolution of Soviet military technology. Number 6. Typhoon-class submarine. This submarine was the Soviet Leviathan of the seas. Built between 1976 and 1985, these behemoths were not just submarines. They were underwater fortresses, capable of housing about 160 crew members and staying submerged for months. The Typhoon class wasn't just about size, it was a nuclear-powered marvel, equipped with a ballistic missile system that put it in a league of its own. Its massive displacement made it the largest submarine ever constructed at the time, a title it proudly holds to this day. But why go so big? The Soviets were determined to showcase their naval capabilities by creating a platform that could launch nuclear missiles from anywhere in the world's oceans, ensuring a second strike capability in the tense chess game of nuclear deterrence. However, the story of the Typhoon class takes a turn from its grand inception. Despite their technological triumphs, only 6 of these colossal submarines were built. As they aged, attempts to modernize them stumbled under financial and practical constraints. The cost of maintaining such giants, along with advancements in more compact and efficient designs, led to their gradual phase-out. Before we move on, here's today's subscriber's pick. Feast your eyes on this image, a supposed relic of a colossal Soviet jet. According to viral tales, this behemoth was a forgotten project from an era when the sky was merely the beginning of ambition. Allegedly, this massive aircraft was abandoned during construction and then mysteriously rediscovered. raising more questions than answers. This image, however, isn't just a photograph. It's a piece of digital artistry crafted by AI to stir the imagination and challenge our perception of history. The tale woven around it taps into the Cold War era's obsession with jet engine technology, a period marked by intense rivalry and rapid advancements. Back then, both the Soviet Union and the United States, building on the innovations of German engineers from World War II, pushed the boundaries from propeller planes to the jet engines that defined modern warfare. How do you think a jet like this would have changed the dynamics of the Cold War and modern air travel? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Number 5. Hovercraft Tank. Picture a tank, not rumbling across the battlefield, but gliding over land and water with the grace of a hovercraft. This isn't science fiction, but a real Soviet venture into redefining military mobility with the Hovercraft Tank project, initiated by the innovative minds at Moscow's aircraft plant 84 in 1937, under the guidance of Vladimir Levkov. This ambitious design was rooted in Levkov's earlier successes with the L-1 and L-5 hovercraft boats, setting the stage for a military machine tailored for challenging terrains, be it swampy marshes, sandy expanses, or river-laced landscapes. The concept was bold: a hovering tank that could maneuver at speeds up to 120 kilometers per hour, with a lift of 200 to 250 millimeters above the surface thanks to two powerful M25 aircraft engines. Structurally, the tank was a marvel of its time, featuring a streamlined U-shaped hull welded from 1013 millimeter steel armor plates and equipped with a rotating cylindrical turret housing a 7.62 millimeter Det-Yarev tank machine gun. Despite its formidable design and potential for swift amphibious operations, the hovercraft tank faced numerous challenges. Its thin armor and substantial size could have made it vulnerable to anti-tank rounds and larger caliber weapons. The project, pioneering as it was, never saw completion. It lacked crucial support from the military high command, leaving this innovative vehicle more a fascinating what-if of military technology than a battlefield revolution. Number 4. Soviet Laser Pistol. When the cosmos became the next frontier for military might, the Soviet Union didn't just reach for the stars, they aimed to arm them. Enter the Soviet Laser Pistol, a prototype energy weapon tailor-made for the cosmos, where traditional firearms falter due to the absence of gravity. Designed for cosmonauts, this pistol used cutting-edge pyrotechnic flashbulb technology to project a beam powerful enough to disable optical sensors or temporarily blind adversaries in space. The inception of this space-aged sidearm was fueled by fears that U.S. space shuttles could hijack Soviet satellites. Thus, the laser pistol was not just a defensive tool, but a potential game-changer in orbital combat. Although it packed enough power to damage optical equipment and cause temporary blindness, it lacked lethal force. Engineers crafted this unique weapon with an oxygen-filled lamp, zirconium for intensified light energy, and metallic salt additives to tune the laser's wavelength. A yttrium aluminum garnet crystal served as the medium for generating the infrared laser beam. Despite its innovative design, the restructuring of the political and economic systems of the Soviet Union and a shift towards disarmament saw the project shelved, leaving the Soviet laser pistol as a fascinating what-if in the annals of Cold War space race weaponry. Number 3. Kronstadt-class battle cruiser. The Kronstadt-class battle cruisers, envisioned as titans of the Soviet Navy, were a pair of vessels that promised to redefine naval power during the late 1930s. Known as Project 69, these heavy cruisers began construction with high hopes and grand plans, only to become symbols of ambition clashing with reality. Laid down in 1939 and slated for completion by 1944, these ships were caught in a storm of shifting demands and insufficient industrial capacity. The ambitious scope of Stalin's naval program outstripped what the Soviet shipyards could realistically achieve. Adding to the complexity, the design had to be modified midway to incorporate twin turrets housing enormous 38-centimeter guns, similar to those on Germany's Bismarck-class battleships, purchased from Germany in 1940. However, the invasion by Germany in 1941 halted the delivery of these crucial components. By the war's end in 1945, only the hull of the Kronstadt remained, barely 10% complete and swiftly becoming obsolete. Soviet planners briefly toyed with transforming her into an aircraft carrier, but this idea was quickly dismissed. By 1947, the remnants of both hulls were scrapped, leaving behind tales of what might have been for these behemoths of the seas. Number 2. Global Rocket 1. Developed during the early 1960s, the Global Rocket 1, or GR-1, was the Soviet Union's ambitious attempt to bypass burgeoning U.S. anti-ballistic missile defenses. Engineered by the legendary Sergei Pavlovich Korolev, the GR-1 was no ordinary missile. It was designed as a fractional orbital bombardment system, or FOBS, capable of placing a 1,500-kilogram nuclear warhead into low Earth orbit. From this vantage, the warhead could then descend upon its target with minimal warning, approaching from any direction, effectively sidestepping radar detection systems. The genius of the GR-1 lay in its potential to deliver a nuclear strike anywhere on the globe with unprecedented unpredictability and speed. However, its development was fraught with challenges, including debates over propellant choices and technical delays. By 1964, amidst these struggles and shifting strategic priorities, the project was shelved in favor of the orbital R-36 missile. Number 1. Soviet aircraft carrier Ulyanovsk. On a brisk day in late November 1988, a monumental project kicked off at the Black Sea shipyard, the construction of the Ulyanovsk. Named after the hometown of Vladimir Lenin, this ship was poised to redefine Soviet sea power. The Ulyanovsk, designated as Project 1143.7, wasn't just any vessel. It was the Soviet Union's first stab at a nuclear-powered supercarrier, a true Leviathan at 85,000 tons, almost on par with America's Nimitz-class giants. The dream was to transform the Soviet Navy into a formidable blue water force, capable of projecting power across the globe's oceans. Unlike its predecessors that relied on ski jumps, Ulyanovsk would feature steam catapults capable of launching fully loaded fighter jets, a game-changer in naval aviation. This steel beast was to be equipped with 2 catapults alongside a ski jump, mirroring the versatility of U.S. Navy carriers, but with a distinct Soviet twist: the inclusion of both anti-ship and surface-to-air missiles. To accommodate this titan, the shipyard itself underwent a massive transformation. An assembly and welding workshop emerged, allowing the creation of gigantic 200-ton sections of the hull. A sophisticated logistics system featuring a 350-ton self-propelled flatbed and a new transport lane was developed, all to support the seamless movement of these massive structures. The shipyard buzzed with the activity of 10 cranes, including 2 new gantry cranes, each boasting a 900-ton lifting capacity. However, dreams often collide with reality. The disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991 throttled funding and halted construction. By November 1991, Ulyanovsk's fate was sealed. At just 40% completion, it became a colossal might-have-been. What remained of this ambitious project was dismantled by October 1992, turning Ulyanovsk into a ghost of unfulfilled Soviet maritime aspirations. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.